We're now moving into the Middle East. Again, our focus was to study the geography, looking at the countries and the major cities. I also do want to talk about with geography how geography itself impacts the lives of those that live in the Middle East. What kinds of things do they deal with living in this region, geographically speaking? I want to remind you the Middle East is not a continent. The Middle East is in fact shared by 3 continents: Europe up in here, Africa down in here, and all of this would be considered Asia. Middle East was a term that the Europeans gave it. It was the Far East is known as China in that region, so this is called the Middle East. The Middle East has a lot of different areas. Some people consider way over in this region of Africa, the Sudan, Algeria, Morocco, even that region in this part of Africa, part of the Middle East. My concentration is just going to be in this area that you can see in the map. We're not going to be talking about the Georgia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, none of the stands. Basically, this is the region that we're going to emphasize. Okay, so the emphasis will be how does geography impact these regions. First thing is that I want you to look at is, again, this is not going to be complicated stuff. This stuff is going to be really easy to remember. This is not like all the causes of the French Revolution. Very simple stuff. First simple thing, Nile River. The Nile River is the longest river in the world. Kind of interesting that the Middle East has a lot of dry regions, and yet it has the longest river in the world. You can see it located right here. It flows up this way, up through the Mediterranean Sea. If you took the United States, it's as long as one end of the United States to the other. You can see all around the Nile River is vegetation. They use irrigation pump it from the river. 95% of Egyptians live along the Nile River. And by the way, while we're talking about this, not everyone in the Middle East is Arab. There's a lot of different ethnic groups in the Middle East. If you go over here in Iran and even Kuwait, up in Afghanistan, Pakistan, you have the majority of the people are Persians. They speak the Persian language. Here you have Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Oman, Jordan, this area, they are Arabs. They're Arabs and they speak the Arabian language. Egyptians, they speak a version of the Arabian language, but they would consider themselves Egyptians. There's a lot of stereotypes about the Middle East that they're all the same, they're all Arabs. That is not true. There's a lot of stereotypes of the Middle East that you, hopefully at the end of this podcast you'll realize is simply not true. That these are two. You cannot just give a stereotype of the Middle East and it applies to all of these people, or even most of the people. Okay, back to this. Nile River, longest river. You can see how much it sustains the population, how dependent they are on it. Look at this at night. This is the Nile River at night, and you can see how it just follows all the people living along that river. Very important. Because the Nile River allows people to have drinking water and farming. You have the largest city in the Middle East. I want you to know it's Cairo, Egypt. We will be talking about this city. Lots of stuff going on in Cairo, Egypt in 2012. Another geographical feature I want you to be able to realize is a man-made thing called the Suez Canal. If you look up here, the geography has a close connection with the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea. Right here they built the Suez Canal, allowed ships to go up through the Suez Canal and into the Mediterranean, allow goods to get much quicker to Europe. Another term I want you to know, Mesopotamia. This is the land between the two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. Euphrates right here, Tigris right here. The land in between, that's Mesopotamia. Rivers are very important. Again, that would be right up in here. This is Mesopotamia. It's known as the cradle of civilization. This is where many people believe the first civilizations took place. First common culture, language, government, and it all started in the Middle East. You're going to find out the Middle East has a lot of first, or a lot of biggest, or a lot of best. This is a wrap-off between the Middle East and the United States. They could say, you know, we got the first civilization, and we could say, well, we have some good stuff too. It would be a good rap battle between these two groups. Be interesting. Okay, here we go. Rivers are very important. People actually have fought over rivers. This is the Jordan River right here between Israel and Jordan. And the Jordan River opens up and gets into the Dead Sea. Another cool thing about the Middle East, the Middle East has the lowest point on Earth. I think it's about 2,000-3,000 feet below sea level, and the salt content is so heavy that you don't even have to swim. You can just float. As you can see, she's reading the magazine, just floating in the water. It's kind of cool. Another thing about the geography of the Middle East, because they don't get a lot of rain and they need to rely on water, they created something called desalination plants. I'll say that again, desalination plants. You can see they're up along, they're taking, what these plants are is they take salt water, and through here they turn it into fresh water, and they pump this fresh water into the major cities of Saudi Arabia. So how does geography impact the people in the Middle East? Well, particularly the Arabian Peninsula, they had to come up with these ideas of taking salt water and turning them into fresh water. Because the farming is so hard, and where you do have farming, that's where you usually have vegetation. You're going to see this locusts are a problem in the Middle East. They come up through the Nile, and they go and eat up a lot of crops and vegetation. Here you can see locusts. This is the pyramids of Egypt, and they eat up a lot of the crops. They don't have really a lot of, they don't deal with tornadoes and hurricanes and things like that. We'll talk about monsoons when we get to South Asia. But they do have dust storms. Here's a picture of a dust storm. A front comes in, brings wind, picks up the dust, picks up the sand, and the dryness can knock out car batteries, make them not be able to work. It's just when a dust storm comes through, you can't just keep walking around, obviously, outside. You're going to get a lot of pain through trying to breathe and things like that. So the dust storms are another thing that they deal with. It's not just all sand and just flat sand. You have mountain ranges, and one mountain range I want to talk about because it greatly impacts our troops. They're called the Hindu Kush. And this Hindu Kush, this region right here, is a huge mountain range in Afghanistan bordering Pakistan. Let's go up here. This region right in, it'd be over in this region right here, called the Hindu Kush. And we are currently fighting the Taliban that are up in these mountains. And if you want to see a good documentary, there is a lot of swearing and there's a lot of violence and fighting, but you can really see the fighting in the Hindu Kush. It's called Restrepo, and you can see how difficult it is to fight an enemy in this terrain. The defenders have a great advantage because they can hide in these mountain ranges. So we'll be talking about this mountain range, but geography definitely not only impacts the Middle East and Afghanistan, but it also impacts the U.S. troops as we're trying to, and NATO, British troops as well, and other countries. Well, the stereotype of the Middle East does fit in the region called the Empty Quarter. This region right in here, it's one of the driest regions in the world, and they get very little rain. I just wanted to bring that up, but there's a lot of different things than just the stereotypes that we have in the Middle East. I want to talk about geography impacting their wealth. If you look at all the countries and the regions in the world, the Middle East produces the most oil. It's not even close to take all the regions combined. Middle East still produces the most. This is a little old, but Saudi Arabia still runs true as the largest oil exporter. They produce more oil than any other country in the world and any other country in the Middle East. Here you see it's 49%. You have United Arab Emirates at 14%, and you have Iran 15%. These numbers are a little old, but you get the idea. With this Middle East money, you have some small countries. Let's go up to United Arab Emirates. United Arab Emirates is right here, and you're going to see the city called Dubai, which is quite interesting. You go, 60 miles north, and you end up in Iran, where the government is not pro-American and does not look highly on American citizens. But in United Arab Emirates, they love the West. They love Americans. You can get an apartment. It's good stuff. And with this oil and this wealth, they've built this city called Dubai. I mean, this is the largest skyscraper in the world. It's called the Burj Dubai, right there. And the Burj Dubai, correctly saying it. Here's the Eiffel Tower, or the Empire State Building. Put two on top. It's as tall That's that skyscraper there. The Middle East has the largest skyscraper, and this area is just booming with building. It has died since 2008 with the economic downturn, but they're still growing and building skyscrapers. Cool thing to do is go on Google Earth and check out Dubai, and you can see all the buildings in 3D. They're currently working on it. Has slowed down. It's called the World. These man-made islands they build these mansions and resorts on, and you have even an indoor ski slope. It's 110 degrees outside. They have the largest mall, and in this mall you can go skiing. This is the top. You go down here, and then you go down another area, and then they're at the bottom, and then you go to TGI Fridays and have yourself a potato skin, or have yourself any sort of food. And it's very Western. It's very pro-American. But what's the point here? The point is the geography has impacted these people. It's produced wealth and money, and with that money, some have embraced Western living and Western lifestyle. For example, United Arab Emirates is highly Muslim. I think it's like 7% Christian, the rest are Muslim. And here are Muslims that are not very strict on their rules and how to live. And you can have fun going on a water park or skiing. The stereotypes of the Middle East are not accurate. All throughout the Middle East, there are regions where you can have a lot of fun. You can have a lot of liberty and freedom, social liberty and social freedom. There are the things that you've learned about, I'm sure, in the past, like Saudi Arabia, women can't drive. But right here, you're a woman, you can't drive, you go here, and it's a lot more liberty. You have people in Egypt currently protesting the government. Some are for strong Islam, some don't even believe in God. Middle East is very unique. It's diverse. It's not a place where you can say the same thing about one region and say it with another region. The regions are very diverse in the Middle East. A lot of different viewpoints, and the geography impacts that in many ways. And that's a little overview of the geography of the Middle East.